I just got a job at AutoQ. I'm going to move into California at the end of next week, or at the end of this week. I'm starting work on site on Monday, but I started work remotely yesterday, so been pretty busy. So normally I would have my own examples, but I just completely took the examples from another source, but it'll show you exactly what I wanted to present anyway, just to kind of save me time because my week's been pretty hectic. But if you want to try to Google the company, you can't because they haven't released anything yet. We're try to make a release in March. It's very high level. They're trying to do like Airbnb for parking spaces, and it's going to be really awesome. And so I'm really excited to get running over there. And a side note, I'm probably going to have to step away as being one of the co-organizers for this meetup. So if anybody wants to help out and take my spot doing these fun talks every month, feel free. So I bought this book not so long ago. We met some of the writers at DroidCon New York City. Bill Phillips, he talked about fragments and activities. Really cool guy, really smart guy, and the book is really well written. It's has really good examples. You can download all the code examples online. Even for some of you that have been doing Android development for a while, I really recommend it because what I'm going to be talking about today, which a lot of people seem interested in, I'm basically taking most of it from from chapter 17, and the example that I'm showing you is the example I pulled off their website. So it's all up there. It's really easy to follow, and they have you build a lot of apps along the way. So it really makes things really easy. So what we're going to be talking about is a master detail reusing fragments for tablet views mainly, but I mean, I suppose if you had a big enough phone, because phones are getting huge nowadays, you could have it support just large phones. But just kind of explain briefly, I gave a talk. It was probably the second talk I gave this meetup, and there's a lot of controversy about whether to use fragments at all, which I think is odd. I think you should use the tools that you're given and not just throw them out. And this is an example of one of the talks that we saw in DroidCon New York City was a way to get around using fragments. You would essentially have an activity that has a view associated with it, and then whenever you wanted to show something else, you would load up another activity with another view inside of it, and then once you moved to the master detail portion, you would have another activity, and then have to redo those views. You can code your own views and kind of subclass it a bit, but still it's not ideal in my view. This is generally how you can think of how fragments work with activities. I'm not going to go crazy into detail here because it's a pretty big subject. But the idea is that with Android, they give you fragments, and what the concept around fragments is the fact that they're reusable kind of UI elements. So you can really compartmentalize different views of your code. You can get more complex than just two fragments within an activity, depending on how complex you want to let things get. But two is what most people will come across. Once you get to the point where you're at maybe 3 or 4, you're probably at the point where you should maybe change the way your views are structured because you're getting pretty complex. So in this example, there is an activity with a list fragment, and then a detail activity with the detail fragment, and then if you wanted to go over to the master detail view, you would simply reuse the list fragment and detail fragment, so that code that existed within that list and within a detail is compartmentalized, so you can just easily reuse it. So I'm going to go over this. As somebody mentioned after my last talk, when I was at the end of my fragment activity talk was, well, it's good conceptually, but you didn't really show us how to do it. So this is kind of just showing you how this is done. There's going to be quite a bit of code here. I'm going to try to slow down and really explain things, but feel free to ask me plenty of questions along the way. All right, let's see what we can do here. So I'll show you an example of what they gave me. Let's start this one. So it's a little hard to see. Maybe I should do that. Okay, So this is emulating a phone. And all that we have here is a list view within this first view, right? So just a list of records. I don't even know what all contains in it because it doesn't really matter. So you can just add things to this. So this is one fragment inside of the first activity. You hit add, and you can add a record. And you can say, there was, so the concept. So the concept of this app in their example is it's the criminal intent app, and it's supposed to be recording criminal activity within your office. You know, so somebody doesn't clean their dishes, somebody has smelly lunch. That's what their example is. So I found another criminal event, and I'm just recording it so that we can record it and find out who did it later, is how they explain it. So let's just say somebody spilled something and left it. You can take a picture of it, but taking pictures, then emulator doesn't work so great, so I'm not going to do that. It's not required, so I'm not going to do it. And then you can just choose who you thought it was. I think it was David. And then you can go back, and you added another record to this list. So to explain how this works with activities and fragments, right now this is just one activity. And this is the first fragment. This is that list fragment that we were talking about. And then when you hit this add button, this is the detail of that. And the detail can be reused in like this new mode when you're creating a criminal event. And then also it's reused when you do an edit, when you click on that same record that you had previously. So that's what I'm talking about how the activities and fragments are kind of organized generally. And now using the same code base, let's get rid of you and throw you over here. Okay. So it's really hard to see, sorry. I wanted to cast my devices, but it's a little harder with this emulator. So this is emulating there we go, it's a little better. This is emulating a tablet. So it's doing some logic based around the size of the device, and you can get that when the user downloads the device. You can render things differently based upon the minimum width, and I'll get into that in a second. But essentially, what's happening here is this is one activity, and you're reusing that fragment on the left, the same fragment, the list fragment on the left, and then the detail fragment on the right. So that's just an example of how it all works, and we'll get into some code so you can see how it works. So the first thing I want to talk about, I have to look at my slide to remind myself, we're going to create the layout of the two fragment containers. Okay. So we're going to look at this. This is the main activity, the first activity that is run. It is a subclass of app compat, and the reason why they did this, I think it's probably more of a style choice than anything, but it's just specifying the layout that's actually used that is holding the fragment containers, and I'll show you what those look like. Maybe. And that's all there is in the single fragment activity. So when in that phone example, you're only seeing one fragment at a time. So you only have one frame layout, which is one fragment container, and you're just replacing the content of that exists in this frame layout. So that's how you kind of organize fragments within just the one layout. But then also, let's go back to here in the it's that. So this is an example of how the layout is organized when you are. This is the layout that it's using when you get to a tablet. You have two frame layouts, and the only thing you really need to know here is that there's two frame layouts. One is the main fragment or the list fragment. Another one is a detail. You can see the layout weight is 1 in 3. It's like the one is saying, oh, this holds 25% of this 100% layout. So you basically have to make it add up to whatever you want to fill out the content of the layout. You can use percentages, or it'll just take it like that. You specify the width to be 0 so that it uses the weight layout. So the left side is only 25% and the right side will be 75% in this example. And the way you actually get it to render those separately. So remember, we're using the same code base with both a tablet and a phone. And if any of you have downloaded a app on your tablet before and it just renders horribly, maybe things aren't laid out right, they don't do anything different on tablets. With this example, you can see how honestly lazy it is to not just change up a few things, and so you can get a different layout to work the way you need it to.
So there really isn't that much different code besides just layout?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. I'm going to go into some callback stuff towards the end, but you can use callbacks when you just have one fragment. It's kind of best practices kind of thing, but people kind of work around it.
Layout, doesn't matter what numbers you put, it just adds them all up and allows it to figure out how much percent.
Yeah, exactly. You could have used for the layout weight in the bottom 0.75 and the layout weight for the top one 0.25. You could I'm not sure exactly how all the ways that you can do it, but it just kind of figures out how many things are within the layout that you have and gives it a weight proportionally.
There's a new support library for percent layout, so that's probably like the new way of doing something like this.
Right.
A little bit more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, if you just thought of everything within there as 100% and did decimals, it'd get you the same thing pretty much. Okay, so the way that the device actually figures out which to use is I think the most important part here. So can you see that? It's kind of hard to see. So on the bottom left here, what we're using is called aliases, and so you have all your different resources in that res folder, and you have all these different qualifiers that you can use for a lot of different things, like pixel density, landscape or portrait, maybe just how actually physically big it is, because sometimes you can change. What was I going to say? They classify phones in different sizes, like small, medium, large, extra large, extra large, and you can you can specify different values based on those terms. There's a lot of different qualifiers you can use, but the one we're using right here is in the is kind of dark right there. It's SW600DP, and it's saying smallest width. So it's going to when your device when your app is downloaded onto the device, it's going to pull in the refs file that corresponds to the qualifiers that are listed, and it'll go to whichever one is the most specific first. So for tablets, it's going to be using that smallest width 600dp.
Is it the other way around?
What's that?
Like the SW means anything less than that, which is actually phones.
Right, but that's just the way that what SW means is smallest width. So it's the smallest width of one at one side of it.
Okay. It's bigger, so that size or bigger.
Right. So if we look at here, so this is what the activity is subclassing, and the default is this activity fragment, which is the one we looked at first with just the one frame layout. But then within the actual, I think it's within, so this is the activity that would hold the list itself. It is specifying this activity master detail, and so it's pointing to a different resource file. And if you look at what that is, it's going to give you two different options, because I have two different resources that are called this, but they're in different folders. This view is different. Let me I don't like that Android view. I like this one better. Because this view actually shows the folders, how they exist. It doesn't push and pile them together for you. So I have one values folder that is the default, and then one values folder that is being a little more specific. And then when you see all of the different resources that are called r.layout, it's going to tell you that, hey, you have two different resources that this could apply to. Which one are you trying to look at? So you can see that they have the same name, the activity master detail, and it's the type of layout. And for the default layout, it's going to use the activity fragment, which is the single frame layout. And then within this values smallest width 600 has the same name, but then the layout it's using is this activity 2 pane, which is the one that I showed you that has the 2 frame layouts within it. So that is how you can use different layouts and actually have them render differently on different devices, but you still have to do the logic within them to kind of make it all work together, which is why they want you to reuse fragments in the correct way, so that when you're reusing them in the activities, then you've already done the legwork for it, and so you can just kind of like plug them in accordingly. Any questions so far?
Question. I'm not familiar with aliases in Android. I've seen this before. I used to see layout dash SW600 instead of values dash SW600.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason?
Yeah, good question. I should have mentioned that. So if you would have done here, so what he's talking about is right here I have a qualifier between the two layouts. Sorry, it's hard to read. I don't think I can make that any bigger. But so I have two different folders that say layout on them, but one is for landscape, right? And the problem with that, and I haven't messed any, I don't think this layout landscape is actually being used for anything. They should probably just get rid of it. But if you want to use a qualifier like the layout landscape, all of your other XML files will need to be in that layout folder as well. So at that point, you're instead of just changing the certain layout files that you need in those instances, you would have to recreate all of them. So it depends on how granular you're really getting. So either way. So since we're just doing a qualifier for just the smallest width 600, the alias is the better solution. Cool. Let's see what else was I going to mention. So I'm not sure how much detail I want to get into with this. So the callback interfaces. So yeah, let's do it. Why not? So the way that and the Android framework recommends that you communicate between your activities and fragments is using interfaces and callbacks, so that your fragment is completely oblivious to what activity is calling it. Just whenever a activity uses your fragment, you have interface, so it has to have the callbacks that it needs. So it's to kind of make it so you can just kind of plug your fragments within your activities, and things should hopefully work if you implement the interfaces that you specified. For example, and you have to do different logic based upon if you're in that you're in tablet view as well. So this is how you do it. So this is a good example of how it kind of works with the interface. This is the activity. So in the example of the phone, you have another activity that has the crime list fragment on top of it, right? So you have the list activity and then the list fragment on top of that. And then you have the detail activity and the detail fragment on top of that. So within this activity itself, you have a callback for the crime fragment, and then the other activity would also have the same callback based upon if you're using it in the tablet or on the phone. And the way they recommend to do this is by checking if the container has the fragment that you're looking for, and if it doesn't, then you know that you need to start a new activity to and pass it the crime, and start a new activity, or you just need to add a fragment to the activity that you're on in that second detail fragment. So this is kind of how they do that. They just simply check to see if that exists. If not, then they kind of know that you only have one container to deal with and just replace the one that you're dealing with. And so this is up here. You can see how they're implementing the callbacks that the crime list requires. So it's just saying. So it has this callback interface, and within the click event, which is, I guess, yeah, this click event right here. It's just calling this callback and saying that they selected a crime, and then it's passing it back to whichever activity owns this fragment. Yeah, I don't know how much detail I should get into all that stuff. Does anybody have any specific questions about how that stuff works?
So when you hit the save button in the details page, and you're on the master detail tablet view, does it pop you back?
Say that again?
Like if you hit save on the master detail,
It wasn't a save button though, was it?
was there back?
It was just
Oh,
back.
I guess it's back.
Yeah, there's no
So
save
how
button.
does it save when you switch between?
The way it's saving in this example, it's saving as soon as you create a new crime, it's saving after it's a record has been created.
Well, what about for editing?
If you're editing, I think yeah, you're
Oh,
this
it's live.
fragment is this fragment is referenced with that record. Yeah.
What about in the two activity case where you have
So here, so that's kind of what I was trying to show, but I probably didn't explain it very well. Is it item selected, update UI? Trying to find. So this is the crime list fragment itself, and then on the click event of that, it's of the record within the view. Wait, shoot. You're talking about within the detail about updating the other way. Sorry, aren't you?
yeah, updating the detail.
There it is. So on the text change, it's updating the crime record, and then it's calling update crime, which is within this. It's within the same fragment. So this is still the crime fragment itself, and it's calling that a callback that has registered within this fragment itself. And let's see how this looks. So this is still within the crime fragment. Go down deeper. Well, let's go to crime activity. It's crime updated. Dang. That's where I thought it would have been. Here it is.
That's for the double case, because
This
the
activity
fragment
is
will
used-
call back to this callback.
This activity is used for both in the instance of the phone.
No, because you're starting the new intent, new activity for the detail, right above there, if it's on the phone. So
No, if it's null.
which
Wait.
should be the phone.
Oh, right. You're right. Shoot. I'm not sure what they're doing.
How does the phone update the list activity? It's calling the listener on the other device, right? We already identified that's calling the listener on the detail, right? And then that's updating the activity.
Well,
List activity.
there's two activities though. So you have the list, which on tablet implements both interfaces. So if it is a tablet, you have both on the same activity. But when it's a phone, there's two activities, and you update something on the top activity, and when you come back, the list activity is updated.
On resume, when you refresh your data.
Probably.
So I guess the question is, look at the honor zone when the crime list activity. Is there an honor zone? Does this inherit an activity?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't build this myself, so I'm not exactly sure how it works.
Is it in the single?
Single fragment.
I don't think so.
So are you saying that you can't create a listener between activities?
Well, you can't link an interface between activities, but I mean, obviously you can update them. One way. would
Yeah,
be-
I'm not sure where this is. So the callback itself, and that's within this pager. Yeah, I don't know why they're not. Yeah, because I would imagine on this on crime updated, they would be pushing that to the activity itself and updating like something here.
There was a crime lab class.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what this is doing. I don't.
It might be in here. And I'm not sure what the database is, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Sorry. Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
access to the code, right?
We do have access to the
So
code.
we can figure it out and post it on
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not familiar enough with this example. I wanted to recreate it myself, but I didn't have time this week. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway,